Yesterday, we got even more evidence of just how intentionally criminal Donald Trump's actions appear to be. On Monday, one of the witnesses in this classified documents investigation, one of the witnesses came forward. And up until yesterday, we knew this witness only as Trump Employee 5. CNN is now reporting that his name is Brian Butler. He was a longtime employee at Mar-a-Lago, and he witnessed some incredibly damning things, like the day that Trump flew from Florida to Bedminster in New Jersey. Trump's body man and his co-defendant, Walt Nauta, asked Mr. Butler to get Mr. Nauta a big SUV, an Escalade. Butler then saw Nauta and Trump's other co-defendant, Carlos de Oliveira, load the vehicle up with 10 to 15 bankers' boxes and then drive them to Trump's plane and then load those bankers' boxes onto the plane. Mr. Butler said that all took place on June 3rd, 2022. Now, later that same day, one of Trump's lawyers provided investigators with what he said was the entirety of classified documents that remained in Mr. Trump's possession, as well as a sworn certification that falsely claimed on Trump's behalf that he and Team Trump had conducted a diligent search of boxes and all responsive documents had been turned over. So what Brian Butler is now asserting here is pretty explosive. Not only did Trump apparently hide away at least 105 classified documents that the FBI eventually found, it sure sounds like Trump managed to steal another 10 to 15 boxes of records, and we don't know if the FBI ever got those records back. Who knows where those boxes are now? That sure sounds like obstruction of justice. What is equally concerning here is why Brian Butler decided to go public right now. Here he was explaining his decision.
Well, I mean, it's been almost a year since FBI agents showed up at my house when my wife was at home. And, you know, over the course of the last year, emotionally, it's been a roller coaster. You know, a couple weeks ago, Judge Cannon says she's going to release the names of the witnesses. You know, you go from highs and lows in this. And instead of just waiting for it to just come out, I think it's better that I get to at least say what happened than it coming out in the news, people calling me like crazy. I'd rather just get it out there. And, you know, the hope is at least I can move on with my life and get over this.
Brian Butler coming forward here is brave. President Trump has a track record of trying to influence or intimidate witnesses who speak out against him. And his followers have a track record of harassing and threatening anyone they perceive to be one of Donald Trump's enemies. So coming out in this big public way is in itself a big deal. Any day now, the judge in this case, Aileen Cannon, may release the identities of unnamed potential witnesses, like witness number 5, which puts at least a dozen others like Mr. Butler at risk. Judge Cannon has yet to rule on whether she will release the names of those witnesses for the prosecution. She held a hearing 11 days ago on the matter. As far as that trial date, that is still very much TBD. Joining me now to discuss all of this is MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin. Lisa, it's always so wonderful to have you on set here to explain my continued confusion about what exactly is happening down in Florida.
First, both.
Yeah, well, and other legal scholars. Yeah. What's Cannon going to do here? I mean, this seems like a very bad call just on its face. Witnesses should be protected, especially those who, you know, the president has a history of maligning, if not outright harassing.
It was really interesting. I was reading the transcript of the argument that you were just referring to earlier tonight, and Cannon clearly still has a leaning toward revealing their names. And she actually asked David Harbach of the special counsel's office verbatim, has there been any indication that any of these witnesses have been threatened? And his response was sort of incredulous, but then he said to her, well, that's not the standard, Your Honor. We don't have to show that a witness has been threatened in order to make a credible case to you that the revelation of their names would compromise this investigation as well as their public safety.
Do you feel like if she says no, Jack Smith takes this to the 11th Circuit?
I do. I think Jack Smith does take this to the 11th Circuit because it's not just about Brian Butler as Trump employee number 5, who has now unveiled himself willingly. There are 20 to 25 other witnesses, according to Harbaugh's estimation, that could be impacted. And it's not just their identities, Alex. I want to be clear with you and our viewers. It's about the substance of their expected testimony as well. There could also be communications between members of the prosecution team, between and among them about some of these witnesses. And some of them are incidental. Let's say they're talking about Lisa Rubin, a witness, and lower down in the chain, they're talking about Alex Wagner. You could end up having Alex Wagner's name out in the public domain, even though it's entirely incidental to the purpose for which that exhibit was used in these underlying motions. That is the subject of this unsealing order.
I do wonder when we talk about the sort of the most explosive elements of this interview with Mr. Butler, I was shocked at his account of helping to load 10 to 15 bankers' boxes that he said looked very much like the boxes storing classified documents that we've seen photos of in the indictment document, that those 10 to 15 boxes were loaded onto a plane and took off. To me, if I'm the special counsel, first of all, they knew this months ago. Yep. Why not continue looking for them? What does that reflect on the part of Jack Smith?
Well, first of all, we don't know that they haven't recovered them. It could be that they have determined that all of those boxes were returned to Mar-a-Lago or somewhere else, that they essentially followed Trump around wherever he went. I had a conversation with someone on your team tonight about our shared recollection that when Trump showed up in New York last year for a deposition in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case, he was seen outside Trump Tower with personal aides carting some of those very same sorts of bankers' boxes. Look, there is a reference in the indictment to the fact that Carlos de Oliveira, Walt Nauta, and others shepherded boxes onto a plane as Trump was leaving from Florida to head north. It never disclosed, however, that Brian Butler, as Trump employee number 5, was among them, and we don't know for sure what happened to those boxes or what their contents were.
Do you feel confident, though, that I guess in the back of my mind, this is all pure speculation. I should warn everyone at home that, it seems that Jack Smith, probably more than anybody else at the Department of Justice, has understood the abbreviated calendar within which he is working, right? Like, he built a federal indictment on January 6th that was made for speed. Let's get it done. Yes. That is very much up in the air. The Mar-a-Lago classified documents case seems very narrow, very clear. He didn't bother with a dissemination charge, for example, saying that Trump was trying to sell these state secrets or spread them, if you will. That seems intentional, right? I'm going to go for the stuff I know I can convict on.
And by the way, he can still use evidence of some of this as proof of intent at trial, even if they don't lead to separate charges. So Jack Smith, to your point, I think has adopted a really surgical approach. He has probably also determined, based on his team's experience with Judge Cannon so far, that further superseding this indictment is to no one's benefit.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean if and when this case were ever to be tried, that we wouldn't see some of the things that Brian Butler talks about in that interview come back and make a reappearance at trial, including through his testimony.
Right. I do think that there's been sort of a fatalist attitude about this because it's unlikely to happen before November, that people think it doesn't matter. But there's a 50% chance that Joe Biden is the president of the United States come the end of November, which means this trial could actually happen. I do wonder what you think the timeline might be for this, given Cannon's seeming indecision to actually set a date.
Well, look, I think a lot depends on what the Supreme Court does on presidential immunity. Trump has made multiple motions to dismiss in this case, 2 of which will be dealt with later this week. But presidential immunity is not one of them. And depending on what the Supreme Court does, this case could go away or it could come back to Judge Cannon to determine, even if he is immune for acts that are alleged to be official, does the stuff in this indictment count as official acts worthy of immunity? I would tell you no. They are post-presidential acts that don't qualify. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is saying because they emanate from his lawful possession during his presidency, he is still entitled to cloak himself in the very comfy bathrobe of immunity.
So does that mean he gets to go into the White House at any time, steal a bunch of stuff and say, I'm not going to ask you to actually answer that, but that seems to be what is suggested by an argument to Trump's merit. Lisa Rubin, it's great to see you, my friend. Thank you for bearing with my questions tonight. I appreciate you, as always.